Welcome to Dark Souls: The Complete Story. The universe and world of Dark Souls does not begin with you. It begins long before you. In the Age of Ancients, during which the world hasn't been formed yet. This is a world of unforgiving mountains, twisted trees hiding the danger, the everlasting dragons, and of course, the primordial beings Fremd and Kaith. Eventually, the fire came to this world, and with the fire came life and death, light and dark. But swirling around these flames, they were souls. The first of which was the Lord Souls, which bestowed great power on their wielders. 3 beings received these souls. The first soul went to Nido, the first of the dead. The second soul went to the witch of Izalith and her daughters, masters of the fire magics in a time long before pyromancy. The final Lord Soul went to Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful Silver Knights and followers. Some of them were well-known knights, such as Dragonslayer Orenstein and Artorias. There was also a final soul, the Dark Soul, and it was given to the easily forgotten Pygmy, the descendant of all humans. Gwyn split his Lord Soul many times as a way to convince his followers to join his fight. One notable group to get the pieces of Lord Gwyn's soul was the 4 Kings, who eventually became long lost in the abyss. The 3 Lord Souls then went to war with the everlasting dragons, and were successful due to Sith the Scaleless betraying his own kind. Upon defeating the everlasting dragons, the Age of Fire was brought to the broken earth. The Age of Fire was a time of prosperity. Kingdoms came into existence, and Gwyn's family thrived. But along with great prosperity came a plot against the gods. There appeared to be a cult that tried to remove the keepers of the Lord Souls from their power. They thought that Nido would be the weakest of the Lord Souls. But how can the first of the dead be the weakest? Eventually, the cult and the plot against the Lord Souls would be stopped, and to prevent any further problems, the artifacts that could harm the keepers of the Lord Souls would be locked away in a painting that would link to another world. This painting would be hung and watched over by the Painted Guardians. This would be the beginning of the end for the Age of Fire. The power of the fire was waning. Maybe it was just time to go, but the kingdoms of Anor Londo and Izalith began to panic as they needed this power to continue their reign, as this was what created the souls to begin with. But the many attempts to rekindle and revive the fire are what created the world that you, the player, will explore eventually. The first attempt was the Witch of Izalith attempting to create a new first flame, but her attempt did nothing but create the flame of chaos. The flame of chaos consumed her and began to give birth to the demons that you will face throughout the game. The city of Izalith was lost, and her children fled the city. Her children can still be found throughout the game, one of which actually teaches you more advanced pyromancy techniques. Gwyn and his Silver Knights had to fight against the demons of Izalith, which eventually turned many of the Silver Knights into the Black Knights that you face later. Gwyn was seeing the end of the Age of Fire, and he tried one last-ditch effort. He divided the remains of his souls to his followers, and tried to burn what was left inside of him. This did nothing but delay the end of the Age of Fire. The people began to lose their sanity as they stayed to protect the non-existent residents of Anor Londo. Eventually, the lands of the Lord Souls found themselves sealed away. Going back to the Pygmy, the descendants of the Pygmy are undead and cursed with the Dark Sign. In this world, once a human is killed, they're sent to the last bonfire they were at. Once a person awakes at this bonfire, they are branded with the curse of the undead, the Dark Sign, with no humanity or souls remaining within them. Eventually, the undead will become hollow, completely losing their minds. To prevent the world from being overrun by the mindless and soulless undead, many would be sent off to the Undead Asylum to the north. But what if humanity could survive this horrible time? There is a prophecy of an undead who will ring the 2 bells of awakening and reawaken the land of the lords. Your journey begins believing this to be yourself, and you set off. You learn of a few things on your journey to ring the bells, such as the fact that humanity is floating around freely in certain beings, and that you can collect this humanity and do one of two things: hoard it, become human again, or you can sacrifice this humanity and burn it in the bonfires, rekindling various fires of the Age of Flame. Upon ringing the second bell, the gates to Arno Londo open, and the primordial Serpent King Seeker Frempt is awoken. Here, you will learn of the rest of the prophecy that you are apparently a part of. It is time for Lord Gwyn to stop clinging to the Age of Fire. It is the time for you to lit the fire and undo the curse of the undead. And he wants you to become the new Lord of the Flame. To do this, you will need to collect the Lord's vessel from Arno Londo and gather up the remains of the Lord's souls. But you can get another option from the Primordial Cave. He will inform you that you're actually a direct descendant of the Pygmy, and it is time for the Age of Fire to move on. It is time for you to usher in the Age of Dark, and the problems of this world are due to Gwyn not wanting to allow nature to continue, and attempting to prolong the Age of Fire. When Gwyn sacrificed himself, yes, he linked the fires across the land, but he also became the Lord of Cinder. He tells you that the prophecy of the chosen undead is actually a lie, and wishes for you to not rekindle the first flame. Let it perish, and the suffering of this world. It is unknown who is telling the truth, and neither appears to be giving you the full story. But regardless, you're left to contemplate this decision as you gather up the last of the Lord's souls. But once you reach the ending and defeat Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder, you have to decide. Do you become the new Lord of Flame, allowing the old world to be revived and the Age of Fire to continue? Do you bring back the old kingdoms, the old ways, and the old gods? Or do you extinguish the flame, ending this world and ending the suffering, and you usher in the new world, the Age of Dark, the Age of Humanity, and become the Dark Lord over this new world? That is up to you. We do not know what happens after either decision as the game ends. Did you rekindle the flame, or did you start the Age of Darkness? Let us know in the comments down below. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please look forward to Dark Souls 2 coming real soon. Don't forget to subscribe for more content, follow us on Twitter @IllegibleMonster, and I'll see you guys next time, right here.